jump. Former President Bush was going to jump on his 80th birthday. He called me and said, Chuck, I'd like for you to jump with me on my 80th birthday. You know, because you see all my movies and you see me doing all these skydiving things. Well, those are stunt guys doing that. And so when he asked me, I go, okay. Wow, I've never jumped before. I better go see if I can even do this. So I went outside LA and did a couple of jumps. I said, okay, I think I can do this. So we went to College Station, Texas, and I jumped with him. That's where my wife and I are raised, is right outside College Station. But I want to thank you all very much for inviting me here this morning. I guess voting for me. I guess you wound up voting for me to come this morning. But I have to tell you, I don't do this very often. In fact, I don't do it at all. This is my first commencement speech at a university. By the time you hear my testimony, you'll see how instrumental God has been in my life. And I really didn't know what God's plans were for me until about 10 years ago. And, you know, then well, actually, let me get back to that. Let me kind of give you my journey in life. You know, I was born in Oklahoma, and I was born into poverty. My family was very, very poor. But my mom was an incredible Christian woman, and she kept me and my brothers in church, and I got baptized when I was 12 years old, and I kept my Christian faith all the way through school. But my father was an alcoholic and philanderer, so he was very seldom in my life, and I being the oldest of the children. And I grew up extremely shy and introverted, and also non-athletic. And all the way through, people say, yeah, right, but that's true. And I went through school, never once getting up in front of a class, you'll give a book report or any kind of report like that. And every time a teacher would ask me to get up and give a report, I'd just sit at my desk and shake my head no, because I was afraid I'd say something wrong and get embarrassed. But I was getting embarrassed sitting there anyway. My face was turning red, and so might as well have gotten up there, but I didn't. And then I graduated from high school, and I decided to join the military. And I joined the Air Force, and I was sent to Korea. And that was my first introduction to the martial arts. And I started training in them, and when I left Korea, I was a black belt in what they call Tongsudo then, Taekwondo now, and a brown belt in Judo. And I came back to the States. I was stationed at March Air Force Base in Riverside, California. And this is 1961, so not many people knew anything about the martial arts at that time. And I thought, well, I'm going to start a martial arts club. And so I sent out flyers to invite people for me to give a demonstration. And I thought, oh golly, if I'm going to give a demonstration, that means I'm going to have to say something and talk. So I wrote out about a half-page speech, and for 2 weeks I'm memorizing this speech. I can say it forwards, backwards. Now this is 1961, and I can still remember it very vividly. I walk into the gym, there's like 500 people there, and the microphone's sitting on the floor. So I walk up to the microphone, now I pick up the microphone and I say, good evening ladies and gentlemen, my name is Chuck Norris and I'd like to welcome you here. That's the last thing I remember. And the next thing I remember, I'm walking out into the middle of the gym to do my demonstration, and I'm thinking, did I say anything? Or did I continue my speech, or did I just lay the microphone down? And to this day, I still don't know that I did. But the thing is, what that did, it cracked that egg of insecurity that I carried around for 21 years. And I kept forcing myself to do it until that egg finally cracked open. And when I got discharged from the service, I opened up my first martial arts school in Los Angeles. And I thought, well, how can I get students in my school? So I decided to become a competitor, a fighter. And so I went to my first tournament in Salt Lake City. I took 3 of my students to Salt Lake City, Utah, from Los Angeles. And all 4 of us competed. My 3 students won and I lost. So I drove back while my students held their trophies. But driving back, you know, I'm thinking to myself, you know, maybe I'm not cut out to be a fighter. And it's like the Holy Spirit all of a sudden spoke to me and says, remember, the only time you ever lose at anything is when you don't learn from that experience. And I thought, okay, Lord, I may lose again, but I'm never going to lose the same way twice. So anyway, I finally fought for the Los Angeles Open Championships, which was my goal, and I won it. And I thought, wow, that was great. Now if I could win the LA, maybe I could win the state title. So I fought for the state title in 1965, and I won that. Then I thought, well, if I could win the state, why not the national? So I fought for the national title, and I won that. Then I thought, well, if I can win the national, why not the international, which is the largest amateur tournament in the world? And in 1967, I fought for the International Grand Championship, and I won that. So now I was going to retire and concentrate on my teaching in my schools. And the promoter of the International says, Chuck, if you can win the International 2 years in a row, we'll inscribe your name to this big silver bowl. I said, I got to get my name in that bowl. So I come out of retirement, and I fight the 1968 again, and I won it for the 2nd year. So I retire again, back to my teaching. Then I get a call from a promoter in New York saying, Chuck, I'd like for you to fight for the World Professional Middleweight Championship in Madison Square Garden in New York City, fighting a Puerto Rican kid. So I thought about it and decided I would, and I went to New York City, fought, and won the middleweight title. Do you know who Bruce Lee is? Do you guys remember him? Anyway, Bruce Lee was there. And he was doing a TV series back in the 60s called The Green Hornet. And so anyway, after I won the title, the promoter introduced me to Bruce, and we started talking, and we decided to start working out together in Los Angeles. And so Bruce and I trained for a couple years together, and then he left for Hong Kong to pursue his movie career. And I didn't hear from him for a couple of years, and then out of the blue, I get a call from Bruce. Bruce says, I've done 2 movies in Hong Kong, and they're hugely successful. Now I want to do a movie in Rome, Italy, and I want to do a fight scene in the Colosseum, you know, and just like 2 gladiators fighting. And he says, I'd like for you to be my opponent in this movie. So kiddingly, I say to Bruce, I said, bro, Bruce, who wins this fight? He said, I win. I'm the star of this movie. So I said, oh, I see. Bruce, at the time I still held the world title. I said, I see. You want to beat up the world champion, huh? He says, no, I want to kill the world champion. So if you ever saw the movie, it's called Return the Dragon. It was a movie I did way back when. And then my schools are doing exceptionally well, and I get a call from a company in Los Angeles saying, you know, Chuck, we would like to buy your schools and open up Chuck Norris schools all over the country. What do you think about that? And I had 3 schools at the time, and I thought, wow, that sounds pretty good. So I went up selling my schools to this company, and 2 years later, we're bankrupt, we're broke. So I lost all my schools. Now I'm thinking, well, now what am I going to do? I said, Lord, I thought my life was going to be teaching the martial arts. And I said, but I guess that's not what my mission is. So I'll just wait and see what it winds up being. Anyway, I started teaching private students and giving seminars to support my family. And Steve McQueen, who was an actor, I don't know, some of the people up there will remember Steve McQueen. But anyway, Steve McQueen was one of my private students, and he said, Chuck, what are you going to do now that you no longer have your martial arts schools? I said, I don't know, Steve, I'm really thinking about that. He says, have you ever thought about being an actor? And I started laughing. I said, Steve, I've never even done a high school play. What makes you think I can be an actor, you know? And he says, well, I don't know. He says, there's just something about you that I like. And he said, only the camera can tell. He said, but I would encourage you to pursue it. So I thought.